Many thanks for making a day today on the marketplace with me, Emmanuel Apuaji Piafi. Let's start it all with some financial news. And the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank has kept its key lending rate unchanged at 16%. According to the Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, the decision was as a result of some threats to economic growth and inflation outlook.
On inflation, the committee's view was that the pace of disinflation had slowed somewhat. The recent underlying inflation trends, gauged by the core inflation and weighted inflation expectations, all showed some uptick in August 2019. This gives some indications of emerging pressures coming mainly from the recent upward adjustment of utility tariffs, ex-pump prices, and transport fares. The second round effects of these measures would have to be monitored closely over the next quarter. The fiscal situation remains a concern, and strengthened efforts would be needed to close the deficit gap. The committee was concerned about the continued revenue weakness, which requires expenditure adjustments to contain a larger than projected budget deficit. It will help underpin investor confidence in the Ghanaian economy and reduce the burden on monetary policy. Global conditions and inflation developments at home have created some policy space for monetary policy, which, however, cannot be exploited in the current circumstances. Looking ahead, it is expected that the full implementation of new tax measures will likely impact revenue performance in the last quarter to help achieve the fiscal deficit target set for the year. Under the circumstances, the committee has decided to keep the monetary policy rate at 16% while monitoring developments going forward.
Well, so this is the fourth time this year that the Bank of Ghana has kept the rate unchanged at 16% since January 2018. The development is expected to have little impact on the cost of credit, reducing significantly. Now let's get on the phone now, beg your pardon, let's go live to the premises of the Central Bank to my colleague George Riafi, who has been covering the meeting. First, George, could you explain why the MPC decided to maintain this rate?
Well, Yafi, if you listen to the governor carefully and the things that he explained, he tried to tell us that there are some threats to economic growth and also inflation as well. And don't remember that the Bank of Ghana always want to look at what they call the inflation targeting, trying to take measures that would actually look at checking the general price levels or money in circulation. And therefore, when they realize that looking at the fact that government spending outlook or government expenditures under threat and also revenue is not doing that well, they really want to observe development in the market before they act. Therefore, let's observe a little bit before we bring the rate down. Even though the governor himself has always said that in recent times they are worried about the fact that credit is not growing, or we've not seen credit improving as expected following the completion of the banking sector cleanup. So critical issues were threats to economic growth and inflation, and that is why they kept the rate unchanged at 16%. Graphic.
And what again has he been saying?
Well, he's been talking about a lot of things. The bit about the Ghana city and what has been their response to it, and also the fact that the Bank of Ghana, that's what they call inflation targeting. So everybody was looking forward to the fact that since inflation has been rebased and brought down to 7.8%, they are going to respond quickly. But the governor was saying that let's hold a little bit, let's observe development in the market, and then we'll act. But we have one person here who might call him an economist, a financial guru, and all the rest, Toma Emery. And Toma, you sat into this briefing as well. What do you make of the governor's decision to hold the rate at 16%, even though development points to a marginal reduction?
I think it makes sense to actually keep it there. Remember what caused the most recent exits, the most recent financing problems government had was the last time they reduced the rate. Was that in January or so? All right. And you remember the governor alluded to it here, that because we are still vulnerable in terms of the mix of foreign investors holding on to our domestic debt securities, we don't want a situation where you reduce the rates and because of that they now exit and we start having financing problems. Right now, the monetary policy rate is actually being dictated largely by our exposure to foreign investors who are still holding on to about 26% of our domestic debt, if you go by what the governor said. Even it's come down from a peak of 36% in terms of their holdings. It's come down to 26%, but that's still quite a lot. George, that's more than a quarter of our domestic debt in issuance. All right. Now, what they're afraid of is that if you lower the rates, and when foreign investors now look at the yield on Ghana's debt securities, of course, it's much higher than what obtains in their home country. But then again, there's a very heavy exchange risk here. Our records are not very good, especially when you're heading towards elections. So if they look at that and decide that they want to retreat to quality, so to say, especially with all these geopolitical tensions going on, you notice that investors are already retreating back to gold and silver as safe haven in this kind of situation. So imagine what happened. Investors now start retreating towards gold because they feel that Ghana has reduced the competitiveness of its yields. All right, that's you reduce the monetary policy rate, and yields actually and interest rates generally go down, and people now feel that Ghana's the yields on investments in Ghana.
Well, so that was economic analyst Toma Emire sharing his thoughts on the current decision by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank to maintain the policy rate at 16%. We got a feed frozen there, but as and when we get through, we'll get back to him to continue with his assessment. But before then, government says it feels vindicated by recent reports by the Economist Intelligence Unit on management of the country's economy. The September country report on Ghana noted that this current administration could win the next elections because of its safe pair of hands to manage the economy. It, however, raised concerns about possible budget overruns this year. But speaking to Joy Business, Deputy Minister of Finance Abna Sayasari says measures have already been instituted to deal with any potential overruns.
And it is obvious. We inherited a government or an economy that had missed a lot of the IMF targets that they themselves set with the IMF. Here we are, 2-3 years down the line, we are out of the IMF, and then we have put checks and balances in place to see to it that we don't go back to, the IMF. One is with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, where we have Parliament has passed a law that we can't go beyond 5% of our deficit. All these things helps us, puts us in check. Secondly, we have formed partnership, that's the social partnership with labor, employers and governments, that here we are, we believe we can be our own IMF, we can act as a check on ourselves. Let us come up with targets and policies that together we will work to achieve this. And once we achieve this, we believe we can be our own IMF, we can act as a check on ourselves. And finally, the Ghana Beyond Aid transformation that government is looking to achieve. One, through industrialization, agric, and all these things, certainly in the long run, will put Ghana's economy in a better position. And so it is this government, that's the MPP government headed by the President Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is spearheading these things. So certainly in the long run, things are going to be better.
Finally, before we leave, the GDP estimate growth. Yesterday, we had good figures from there. We realized the services sector was driving up massively. Do you think there should be an over-concentration in the services sector to do well in the coming years and leave out the other sectors?
I think that there should be a balance, and that is why, like my minister said, that the 2020 budget is going to be on industrialization, because after growing the services sector, we would need to industrialize to firm things up. We cannot only depend on the services sector. One, we're already working on the agri sector through the Plan for Food and Jobs. Thankfully, the whole of last year, Ghana didn't import maize as a result of this policy that has come in and has increased yield so much. And so 2020 is going to focus on industrialization, just like my minister said. So there should be a balance.
That was Deputy Finance Minister Abnel says we're still trying to make effort to get back to the country's central bank to actually get some more assessment on the current maintaining of the policy rate at 16%. Now, even though export of non-traditional export goods shot up by some 34% in 2018, the agricultural subsector contributed 21% of the country's total non-traditional export earnings. According to CEO of Henascent, an agricultural exporting company, Henry Addo, more can be done by local farmers if farmers are trained in using best farming practices. Speaking to Joy Business at the back of Ghana Export Promotion Authority 2018 report on non-traditional exports, Henry Addo says demand for yam is huge and the only problem faced is post-harvest losses, which can be tackled with some more education. There's more in this report.
According to the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, the agricultural subsector recorded $591,036 million in 2018 through exports. This depicts an increase of 34.04% from the 2017 figure. Out of the agricultural food baskets that contributed to this gain, cashew nuts, banana, shea nuts, yams and rice recorded the least amount of $4,199,509 from the list of foods indicated in the 2018 Ghana Export Promotion Authority report. Yam exports saw a 1.23% growth in 2018. According to the CEO of Henascent Limited, Henry Addo, yam export has seen a significant improvement over the years. In his view, yam farmers need more education on planting and fertilizer application to ensure the produce lasts long for export.
Spoilage is one thing that we need to tackle. So of late, we have registered about some 2,000 farmers. That belongs to my association called Seafruit Yam Exporters Association. So they produce the yam. The spoilage all comes from the fertilizer that they apply. So we have trained the farmers such a way that they will know how to apply the fertilizer to keep the yams very safe. The yam farmers to come together as a team. Okay, we have some people who have been training, who will be training them how to plant it, how to use the fertilizer, how to do it. You see, when you get it that way, I think the business will be safe. You can't just wake up just like that to go and plant your yams. No, we need to have some technical knowledge about it.
He believes the African Continental Free Trade Area provides vast opportunities for local farmers to produce more to penetrate the African markets.
I know that Costa Rica and Brazil also export yams, but the difference is our yam is very premium. Our yam, they export only white yam. And now of late, I think Nigeria also has jumped in, which, yes, they also have a white yam, not as Ghana yam as Puna. So our yams is very premium. So wherever it goes, we have a price for it. It's an advantage to enter into the African market because I think there is a heavy advance chance South Africa like this. Yes. We have to take this opportunity to increase our export value.
Henry Addo stated that government has a role to play to ensure farmers enhance their knowledge. Fred Duho's report for Joy Business.
Now, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have set up an agric mechanization center for farmers and students. It will provide training in use and servicing of machinery for commercial farming for increased food and crop production. Under the initiative of Planting for Food and Jobs, it seeks to train students and existing agric engineers. Nana Sensu-Mensah has more in this report.
Combine harvesters, tractors and plows have often broken down with little or no expertise to fix them. Such equipment end up as scrap with attendant cost of replacement. Dr. Clara Benisdako is a Ashanti Regional Agric Engineer.
So with this training, we hope to help elongate most of our machinery because most operators do not even know how to operate these machinery, but still they force themselves to operate them. And at the end of the day, instead of doing the work effectively and efficiently, they end up collapsing people's businesses. So that is why we, That is the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and KNUST is establishing this training center to help all stakeholders to elongate their machinery and also to increase productivity in Ghana.
The Agric Mechanization Training Center, under the initiative of the Planting for Foods and Jobs, will serve as a center for refresher courses for existing agric engineers. Professor Emmanuel Bobobi is coordinator for the initiative.
But this is the first time that we are having this, implement, full complement that will help us in training so that our students will not just hear of this and see the video, but then they will have the opportunity to come to the field. When we are talking about combine harvesting of maize, it's not that to see the combine, all the components, the cutter bar, the conveyor, and then the threshing mechanism. Now you are here to see how it is working. And that opens up their imagination, and then it's actually coming to stay. In fact, it may be even the beginning of an international center of excellence on agricultural mechanization and management. In fact, with this thing, when we are able to train the old engineers in the system, retrain them so that they can be retained, then we will continue to train the students, the young ones that are coming. And then we'll go ahead to not only to use foreign machinery, but then also to develop our own. In this field, the university has got a very large tract of agricultural land for research, about 1,000+ acres. And we are going to use not less than 50 to 200 acres for mechanized production, so that farmers can come here and then see the protocol. We are going to actually mechanize all the production of the candidate crops that the minister has identified in his plan for food and jobs. Maize is one, even the root and tubers, cassava, yam, the vegetables, so that people come here and see how these things are done on a mechanized, easy to take home and get the take-home message, and they can promote and propagate the whole idea.
Beneficiary students already under training share the experience.
In school, we do learn about how to operate these machines and their parts, being it gonjon, pin, cylinder, the coil and all that. But we weren't able to get access in touching them or fixing them. So far when we came here, we were able to get a chance to touch them, feel them, and even know how to even fix it a bit.
I've learned that the combine harvester removes the husk, like the comb, the maize comb from the seeds, and after they've been separated, the maize goes to a different place.
See how we operate this machine. This is combine harvester. The engineers are there fixing it, and the students are around all over to see how they fix this machine. And then when we came, we were having the opportunity to learn how to operate this machine.
Anna Asensorensa reporting.
All right, so let's still stay within the Ashanti region and do some more agric stories. Players in the timber industry look forward to an improved timber and wood processing sector as a new board assumes office. The 23-member governing council for the Forest Industries Association of Ghana is tasked to see to the reinvigoration of the sector. They are expected, among other things, to create a stronger institution capable of negotiating with government on local sourcing of furniture. President of the Governing Council, Richard Dua in Century, tells Love Business the council will ensure, for instance, the voluntary partnership agreement becomes successful. Prince Apia was at the inauguration ceremony and has more in this report.
10 forest-based enterprise affiliates of the association is expected to collaborate with government on sustainable national forest redevelopment. Leadership says it is committed to create opportunity for effective private sector participation to contribute to national economic growth. President of the Governing Council, Richard Dua Century, says their measures will also address illegal timber trade. He spoke to Love Business at the inauguration of the board in Kumasi.
Our mandate is very simple. It's to make sure that we help with government policies. We don't believe that government alone has to create an enabling climate for the private sector. We also have a lot of know-how in contributing to shape government policies so that we can have a sustainable forestry development in Ghana. Our contribution for this sector is going to make sure that we stop illegalities, because everybody tag illegal timber trade with timber operators. But they are responsible timber operators, and that is why we want to have our association recognized as such.
Mr. Century says the council will engage government to enact a tree tenure system to protect and increase forest cover.
It's about our resource base. Most of our, apart from the challenges confronting our sector, the major challenge has been with forest resource. So we are helping government to make sure that we're able to enact a tree tenuership, so that when I tend a tree, not necessarily when I'm planting a tree, I can own it. And we believe that when such a policy is enacted, it will help increase our forest cover and eventually give us much more raw material. But as much as possible, we also contribute to reforestation, afforestation, plant more trees, because that is the basic of our business.
The fragmented nature of the trade associations, which officials blame for their weakness, is receiving attention of the board. Nana Ohene Wuntumi II is former board vice president. He urges his successor and his team to create a stronger institution capable of negotiating with government on local sourcing of furniture.
If you focus on value addition products, which the prices are higher than the lumber they are exporting, you see, and then plantation, tree, that is planting of trees, that all Ghana embassies should buy their furniture.
Now, settler farmers in the Western North region are said to be encroaching on forest reserves in their quest to expand their cocoa farms. Forest reserves, including the Bia and Krokosua, are gradually being lost to cocoa farming at the expense of crop cultivation amid climate change concerns. Ghana in 2017 committed to producing deforestation-free cocoa under the Cocoa Forest Initiative, but merchants are unable to strictly monitor adherence due to absence of a digital map for the purpose. Nana Yaujima traveled to the Dwaboso Forest District to investigate the situation, as well as some government interventions to halt deforestation.
Abrakofe and Bonzain are communities sitting on the flanks of the Krokosua Hills Forest Reserve. Cocoa farming is the major agricultural activity for residents. Nana Ewabafo owns 4 separate cocoa farms.
For my 4 farms, I could get at least 75 bags, but in recent years, I struggled to get 20 bags. Deforestation is a factor.
In 2011, Ghana produced 1 million tons of cocoa, the highest in the country's history. Production has since dropped despite efforts to leverage earnings from the commodity. Statistics from business data platform Statista shows a steady rise in cocoa production to 900,000 tons in 2018 and 2019 year from 740,000 tons in 2014-2015. Even though government intervention contributed to the rise, illegal expansion of admitted farms is fingered as a contributing factor. Forest researcher Ruth Mallison speaks of the dangers deforestation poses to climate change.
As I pointed out, they are the lungs of the earth, but they also are very important in terms of moderating climate. If we continue to cut down the rainforest at the same rate that we are doing, it will contribute to climate change.
Consumers of cocoa products across the world are shunning from cocoa produced from farms contributing to deforestation, forcing cocoa buyers to take key interest in the issue. Frank Ochre is compliance supervisor in charge of environment at Kuyapa Cocoa.
That every farmer within Kuyapa Cocoa who is registered is mapped, has all his or her farms mapped. That is one. And then we will superimpose that on the national maps of the protected areas to ensure that our farmers don't do that. And we are even trying to support our farmers, in fact, improve upon their soil, so that the land that they are already cultivating, they will intensify their production, okay, instead of going into even forest.
And that'll be it on the marketplace for now. Bringing more business stories on Business Live later in this evening. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. Have a good afternoon.